everybody. It's Neil Malvone, founder of the Dream Bowl. I'm welcoming you to our new podcast series where we're going to hear from some of the amazing players that will be participating in this year's game. Please join Chuck Stuller, our Director of Player Personnel, and his assistant Trey King as they talk to our players and get a little bit more information about what brought them to Dream Bowl 12. Throughout the rest of the year, we'll be interviewing other players, current, former, and future Dream Bowl athletes. So come join us on Surge Sports and be part of the Dream Bowl experience.
Jalon Ferrell with us from UMass, DB, safety. And we're going to be chatting with him a little bit, getting to know him a little bit as well.
Chuck cut out. All right. I'll take it over from here. Jalon, yeah, you are. Jalon, it's good to meet you. Put a name to a face. We're just gonna sit here, get to know you a little bit better in preparation for the Dream Bowl this weekend. Obviously, super excited to have you. We got one of your teammates too. Juan Lua is also going to come down. So UMass is well represented at our game this year. And obviously super pumped to have you and get to talk to you here. Just moving into this interview here. One of the questions I want to start off with is obviously being a transfer from UConn and then ending up at UMass. Can you just walk me through kind of that process and what went into making the ultimate decision to play at UMass?
It was a hard one, but it was also the love of my coach, who also came from UConn also. Perkins, I think he's at Syracuse right now. It was the ultimate decision because I knew how much of a good coach he was and how he helped me progress throughout the years at UConn. And I knew once I got to UMass that I knew under a good coach I was going to continue to excel in the program.
Cool. And then Juan mentioned a little bit. He talked about Coach Juice Walker. Just want to get your thoughts on Coach Walker and kind of just how he progressed your game.
He helped me a lot. He offered a lot of coaching. He just really did a lot of step-by-step coaching, everything. Even on sometimes throughout the offseason, he would give us pointers on what to work on. When we go to his office and ask for questions about how can we better our game.
That's awesome. And then obviously just doing a little research on you, looking at stats. Seemed to finish off your career junior and senior year pretty strong. Can you just talk about this year overall and your play overall throughout your career?
I'll say my play, it gotten better, especially with the more experience I've gotten. This season I was hit with a little bit of injury. I had hurt myself early in the year, and also at the end of my last year where I hurt my ankle towards the end of the season. But overall, it was just me just learning the game, getting better, advancing, watching film, just getting my body back in tune because the injury did hinder me a little bit. But overall, I just had to just keep working because I always had that bigger goal that was always reaching that next level.
Yeah, for sure. And then can you just talk about what scheme you see yourself best fit in or kind of what you've played in and your strengths in that scheme?
I would say at UMass we ran a lot of man coverage, so I did get a lot of time putting in work in that, learning what we call scooch at the time. So I think in a lot of schemes, especially being one high, I did play a lot of one high at the time also. But due to my my size and stature, I did play a big part in the run game. So I can honestly based on my experience at UMass, especially these last 2 years, I've been working perfecting my craft in it. I can play the high safety. I can play in the box. I can even possibly play man coverage.
Nice. Chuck, I'll throw it over to you now.
Sure. Let's see. Can you hear me? Okay. Now Trey did ask about about your journey from UConn to UMass. You're a Miami guy, right? From Florida,
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
And you started off at UConn. From what I gathered, now don't take it personally. Like you weren't that big of a recruited guy. Now, do you think that process kind of put a chip on your shoulder a little bit?
Yeah, it did. But one thing I never took for granted is how God works. He always has a plan for everything that you got to do. So once me getting that offer from UConn, it definitely made me feel better about myself as a person. But I already knew that since I wasn't a heavy recruited guy, I was possibly going to get overlooked, especially when I stepped in the facility. So I did walk in with a little bit of chip on my shoulder. But at the end of the day, I always knew that God puts you where you need to be. So that's why I did not take it too personal.
Gotcha. Excellent. Now going from Miami to all the way up north to Connecticut, was it like a big change for you?
The weather for the most part, that was really the biggest change because going from right now it's probably like what 70 degrees, 70, 80, going to a place where it gets what 20, maybe even 10 degrees at night, especially during the winter. That was a big change. But other than that, like it was really just adjusting to the college life. But overall, it was a good experience to like, especially being out of my own, like I'll say comfort zone since I've been in Miami my whole life, going into a new area where I'm basically on my own. It was definitely a big, and it definitely helped inform who I am to this day.
Excellent. It's good to hear that. Now, you did mention that your versatility on defense. You said you can play the single high safety, you can come down the box, and I do feel like your size and the combination of that size and speed is definitely an asset for you, being as like 6'2", 205, 210. Now, would you? You said you can play either one. Like, do you prefer like a certain role?
Honestly, no. It's just I like both. Playing deep, especially in the coverage, but also I like to be in the box because like it's just I like contact. So it's like I don't want to be in a one high just getting bored if part of the game because just not getting involved in the actual run game or possibly some pass plays where they're throwing like little short passes and stuff. And sometimes I get there, he's already on the ground. I like playing in the box because like it also keeps me more in tune, everything. I know and it shows like also like I can see everything closer since watching films, like you watch it at a distance, but when you see a lot of certain patterns and then when you see it in a close and like right in front of you, it kind of opens up and it makes you feel more confident in your play.
Say, because it sounds like you want to play downhill.
Yeah, I can play.
It's kind
I
of what it
like
sounds
playing
like.
downhill.
All right, nothing wrong with that. But we know you're versatile. But I was like, it just sounds like you want to be the kind of Cam Chancellor and play downhill and be around the line. Nothing wrong with that, brother. Nothing wrong with that. What you got, Trey?
Chuck, you just hit on kind of playing downhill and the Cam Chancellor role. Who do you study the most, or who can you compare your game to the most that you believe personally would fit best with kind of how you play and play style?
The one person I always looked up to was Derwin James, especially since he went to
Florida
Florida State.
guy. Yep.
Yeah, he went to Florida State. I grew up in a Florida State family. So I was
Yes.
always yeah, so I always watched his game and how he played. And like I said, he has that downhill mentality, but he can also play like deep and he can also like he's all over the field. So that's what, like one person I always wanted to aspire to be because like once even though I also have the size to play downhill, I have the speed and agility to be able to get across the field. So like there's like really no place where you can't put me on the field. You can make it adds to my value.
Mm-hmm. Were we a multi-sport guy in high school? What other sports did you play?
I wasn't a multi-sport guy in high school, but I did run a little bit of track. But that was really the only one because in Miami where it's sunny all year long and football is only a couple months throughout the year. You got to do something. So I ran track, but on my pastime, like in some of my little hobbies, I used to just play basketball with some of my friends.
Nice. I know Chuck wants to elaborate more on the hobbies you have. What's something that you do that kind of rewinds you or takes you away from the game, just in your free time that you do?
My number one is just playing. Like sometimes it's playing video games, but like I like to like even though it don't really take me away, it's just more of like a thing to just help better myself. I'll like watch like NFL like field times with like different players, especially like DBs, so I can just see how they see the game, especially like when they watch, they especially elaborate like the big plays they make sometimes, and it's just the way they talk about how they see it before it even happens. It just really like kind of sometimes blow my mind because like sometimes you don't think about that in the situation, but they are really in tune with everything they do and how they process the game and treat each play like treat each play like, and it's just really like really in tune. And that's like one thing I like to do in my pastime.
Okay.
Big football guy here. Got a big football guy. Go ahead, Chuck.
Sure. Now, I'm not sure if we asked or not. Now, do you have anything you like to do pregame, like any pregame rituals that you have to follow, like each game out there? I know a lot of guys like to sit in the dark. We heard Juan, he like to sit in a dark room with a towel on his head and get into a different kind of place before he hits the field. Like what do you do pregame?
I do the typical pregame stuff, stretch, get on the field, stretch. I'll like honestly one of my pre-games is listen to gospel because like I said, God always puts you in your situations where he's supposed to be because it can always be an opportunity as a learning experience no matter what happened, good or bad. So sometimes, especially when I'm going to like when we first travel in the bus going to the game and we do our little walks, I will always be listening to gospel. And then as closer we get to the game, I start listening to more like upbeat stuff to get that adrenaline even more pumping so I can get ready for the game.
Young boy. Who else are we here? Future.
Yeah, stuff like that. Just to get
What's
me
on the pregame playlist then?
It's definitely
Kodak.
Young Boy. It's really Young Boy. That's my number one. From time to time, I'll listen to Lil Fo if you know who that is. Dirk. That's my top three I'll go to, especially but Young Boy is really like the one that goes to, especially going into them like final minutes before Coach brings us and tells you about to hit the field.
Yeah. Pretty classic. It's a classic football playlist right there. You got Young Boy, Kodak Black. Who else we listen to? G Herbo, all different types of guys in the locker room. I just want to ask about your leadership style on the field. Obviously, making it to that next level, you got to be a high character, super smart player because a lot of the times your mental processing on the field has to happen a lot faster. What are some of those qualities that you have in yourself that makes you better on the field and a better leader in general?
I would say like one of those biggest qualities is like my number one is formation recognition, especially when I study an opponent. Because like I like to when I watch film, I like to look at patterns. That's one of the like the easiest things to kind of formulate when watching film, like formations and associating like sometimes typical route concepts, like especially in the pass game, typical route concepts within the formation. Also, another thing I look at is when I watch film is where the back is placed because a lot of in college they do a lot of shotgun where they have the back offset. So obviously, and a lot of formations like the back, the way how deep the back is or how shallow, where side of the what side of the field of the string he's on, it can also tell you the type of play that you're possibly going to get, like running wise, and also the receivers. Like what a lot of people, some people don't realize is like the distance. Like when you see like when I know one thing I did notice a lot when especially on the field is when they call a different play call, receivers will tend to move, and that can really tell you like their route concept. Especially in the slot, you can only run so many routes. So like that's one thing I do take on, like especially watching on the field. Number one thing I would look at is where are my receivers at, and then where is the running back? Where is he? Like, is he offset? Is he in the eye pistol? Like that would kind of tell you the type of plays you would get. And I would kind of I won't be right all the time, but sometimes I'll be accurate, especially. But sometimes it's kind of like it's sometimes a way to anticipate, especially when you see a lot of teams who does a lot of like I said, pattern type things. And like it's certain games, especially like the first game of the week, sometimes it's really one of the easiest things. But actually, the first game is one of the hardest things because it's like you don't really know. But going down the line, especially going into like week 3, week 4, you see a lot of patterns. So it's easier to see, like it's easier to associate certain plays or passing concepts with certain formations. And that's one of the things I can always carry with me when I watch film or when I'm on the field, even on the sideline cheering my teammates on. That's one thing I always carry with me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's like I said, the mental processing and being able to recognize formations and who's on the ball, who's off the ball with the spacing between the receivers, that's key. So already ahead of the game there. Chuck, I'll throw it over to you now.
Sure. Another question, like towards the personal side. You're a Florida guy. You mentioned that you were a Florida State fan, and which so am I. That's why I started doing the chop. So
Yeah, I saw it.
I've been a Florida State fan since Charlie Ward. That's one of the first few games that I watched. What if, like, as far as like pro teams go? Did you have a favorite pro team growing up that you still follow?
If you'd have noticed when I accidentally turned off my cam, it was the Chiefs. Cause it's funny because I grew up in a Florida State family and I also grew up in a 49ers family. But growing up, I was always an Alex Smith fan. I wasn't more of the actual team. So when he finally went to the Chiefs, I just stayed there, and that's just been my team ever since. Especially when, when they started winning even more. But it was kind of hard telling people that growing up, especially nowadays when every time someone asks me who was your favorite team, and I'll tell them the Chiefs, they'll be like, "Oh, you're a bandwagon. Oh, this and that." I'll be like, "Bro, it's not me. It's just how I grew up. I grew up in a Florida State family. Then I grew up in also a pro 49ers family. So then it's kind of hard to stay away, from especially growing up in a Florida State family, hard to stay away from the chant, man. It's like the chant is just, always gets you going, especially when they about to make a big play on defense or offense. You hear the chant, it just gets you going, gets you hyped.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I played at Florida State this past season, not this past season, but I guess season of 22, and I can tell you, Doak is crazy. We had we had a lightning delay, and they had metal bleachers all around the stadium. Nobody left. There was a huge lightning storm going on right now, and everybody was there in one of these. The whole lightning delay. So Doak in Florida State is a pretty dope place to play.
Yeah.
All of Tallahassee shuts down if FSU's playing. The whole that's it. It's kind of like Texas. If your high school team's playing, the town gets shut down. If FSU's playing, Tallahassee shuts down. So
yeah,
that's now I think did you say, I think you said all pro 49ers family. Did you have relatives that played in the NFL?
No, I meant to say I didn't ever have family that played in the NFL. They were just a big 49ers fan. It would, especially when they played, it would always be especially when Kaepernick. My grandma was a big Kaepernick fan, and that was one of the biggest things. That's the funniest part about being watching her watching the game, because she always used to yell at the TV. Used to always be like, "Go!" I'm like, "Grandma, they can't hear you."
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Just want to move in as we wrap this interview up. Just if you could give a pitch to a team as to why they should pick you up, what would that be?
I would say my biggest thing is versatility and how I approach the game, how just the mental aspect also, because the game is mental. The biggest part of the game, a lot of people don't realize, is mental. At the end of the day, you can be the fastest guy, but if you don't know where you at on the field and how the game is run, you're gonna end up being left behind no matter what. And it's just putting yourself in the right place in the right time, and that's really what a lot of people, especially guys who already have that God-given talent, they better their game because they always take that mental aspect, being able to read plays, be able to jump things, and that's one thing I really know I can offer at that next level.
Excellent. Awesome. As Trey said, we're kind of moving towards the end of the interview here. Did you have any questions for him and I about the game at all?
Y'all ready for a show?
That's my big question. Most definitely. Obviously, Chuck, we hit on it a little bit in previous interviews, but more FBS guys have committed to this game than ever before because of the lack of the NFLPA game. So the talent is there. The teams and the executives and coaches will be there too, and it's really just the ball's in your hands now for how you compete and the type of character, your type of character guy you are. So it's really up to you. Are you ready for a show?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right then.
Now, just a real quick. Now, unfortunately, I won't be there this year because I did have surgery last month. But my right hand man Trey is going to be down there. He's going to be at all the practices and at the field, basically mirroring my movements that I would do every year. But I have no doubt that you're going to come down and ball out, man. I was really excited when we talked to each other online leading up to this point. So I'm really excited for you. I think you deserve the opportunity. And
Thank
I
you.
expect you. Yeah, yes, sir, absolutely. And I expect you to make the most of it for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. No problem at all.
All right, cool. Well, if there's nothing else, obviously we'll see you in a couple days, and then safe travels getting down there.
All right, thank you.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Go watch some football. All right. Stay safe.